goal is to come up with the two, don't write this yet, to come up with the two binomials that we foiled together to make this. Okay, that's our goal. So let's keep this in mind. How about over here at the top? Let's just foil something just so we can keep it in the back of our head. Okay, any problem, let's just make one up. Let's do 3x plus 1, and let's do x minus 4. Just random numbers, completely random numbers. Okay, so foiling this is going to be 3x squared. Let's just do different colors here to make it nice and easy. That's going to be minus 12x. That's going to be positive 1x. And I guess black is the only one left. That's going to be minus 4. And then we need to, as always, combine these two middle ones together. And so we get 3x squared minus 11x minus 4. And we know that it is minus 11 because it's minus 12 plus 1, so minus 11. Okay. So we're going to keep this in mind. Instead of this being the answer, we are now going backwards, and this is the answer. And we are trying to start with this trinomial and crack the code on our way up to get to the top. And again, I told you this was the very first time I ever had a little bit of fun in a math class. So here's what we're going to do. The first thing we need to do is to make this jump from the question up, and as you can see, we've gone from 4 terms down to 3, and so our goal now is to go from 3 terms up to 4. And then, I'm sure your mind is clicking here, once we have 4 terms, that's a piece of cake, because we just did 3 questions about how to factor when you have 4 terms, right? So as soon as we can go from this triple to this quadra, I guess, then we're going to be chilling because we already know how to handle this 4 group. So looking at this number 1, the hardest part of the question is going from the trinomial up to the 4-part polynomial. So here's what we need to do. I recommend that you draw a shape that looks like this. And the reason that I like to draw this is because we need to multiply those two numbers. Okay, we need to multiply the 3 times the negative 8. And we need to know what that is. Anybody know what 3 times 8 is? 24. Absolutely, right? The faster you can do that, the easier this is going to become. And particularly 3 times negative 8 is going to make negative 24. And that is very important. And I'll tell you right now, this is a class of 10. Of course, some of you guys are absent, but there's always going to be one kid out of 10 who just says, I don't care about the negative signs, whatever. Who cares about the positives and the negatives? And for some reason, I don't know why, they just don't care and they get questions wrong and they're like, it doesn't mean anything to them. But I'll tell you right now, this minus is important and you should probably write it every time. So what we need to do now is do a puzzle. 24 is what these two things multiplied together to make. We need to come up with something that multiplies to make 24, but adds together to make the inside number. Okay? So here's what I mean by that. What are some different pairs that multiply to make 24? We know one of them, 3 times 8, because we just did that one 2 seconds ago. But what else makes 24 when you multiply two numbers together? What do you got? 2 times 12, 100%. I also heard somebody say 4 times 6, 100%. Are there any other ones? What do you say? 24 times 1. And most of the time we ignore that because we're like, it doesn't really matter. But it's possible that this question might have been a 25, right? And so we would need to know 24 and 1. So that does count. Okay, so this is it. We've got them all listed out. We've got them all handled right here. We need to come up with how can you take these numbers and make a 10. But we've forgotten one thing. These are multiplying to make a negative 24. And if two numbers multiply together to make a negative, the signs of those two numbers are one of them's a minus, one of them's a plus. So let me walk through this again really quickly. We're doing first number times the last number, and that's giving us negative 24. We're trying to come up with two numbers that are multiplying to make this and adding up to make this. So what we did is we made a list of everything that could possibly multiply to make 24. Now all we have to do is pick from this list, how do we make 10? And we also wanted to keep in mind minus 24 means that we need a minus and a plus. So which of these pairs are we going to choose? What do you got?
2 and 12.
2 and 12. So 2 and 12 makes 10 because you're going to choose positive 12, negative 2, right? Everybody, I guess I'm writing a little small, but everybody cool with that? How that's going to work? It's going to multiply to make 24. In fact, a negative 24. And it's going to add together to make a positive 10. Now, this is where I was trying to tell you, the rookie would say, what about plus 4 plus 6? That makes 24. That makes 10. But you guys know, doesn't work. You can't use plus plus because it's got to be one of them minus, one of them plus. So a nice little trick question to start us off, but you guys handled it beautifully. So now we need to make this triple. We've solved the puzzle. We've done all the hard work. Now it's all just working slowly from here and not making any weird mistakes. So what we need to do now is write this triple as a 4-part grouping question. Now, all we need to do for this is say 3x squared. That hasn't changed at all. And the minus 8, that hasn't changed at all. What we've done is we've taken the 10 and we've just kind of put the 10 into two different parts. We put it into a minus 2 and we put it into a plus 12. Now, the very last thing before we finish this question, the very last trap that you could fall into is writing it like I've written it here. The way this looks right now is negative 3x squared. Or sorry, I don't know why I said negative. This is a positive 3x squared. But then minus 2 plus 12 minus 8, that's just 2. Okay, the issue here is that this is a 10x. And so when we split this up, we've got to split it up and make sure it's minus 2x and plus 12x. Okay, because there's 10 x's there. And a lot of times people forget the x's. And it's so sad because they've done this hard puzzle. They figured out the perfect combination. They split it up. And then they just goof up a little bit. They forget the x's, and they end up getting it wrong. Okay, but now, at this point, we are ready to finish the question. We've got a 4-parter. We know how to handle this. We chop it in half. We look on the left. Can we do a GCF? Can we take something out over here? What can we take out? X. We need some leftover stuff. 3x minus 2. And then, of course, when we get over to the other side, we have to find 3x minus 2. We have to find 3x minus 2. So, over here, sometimes I like to kind of do this in my head, right? Just tell myself, like, you better find 3x minus 2 over there. So, What are we going to have in common? 12x and minus 8. What can we take out? We can take out a 4. And what is left over? 3x minus 2. It's perfect. Everything has worked out, right? We are very happy. And now it's just time to finish the question. We've got one answer that comes from the two identical pieces, 3x minus 2. And we've got one binomial that comes from the leftover stuff, right? The x and the 4, x plus 4. All right. It's definitely a little bit tiring the first time you do one of these questions, right? A little bit winding the first time you work through it. But we had this little puzzle to solve, and once we figured this out, this is the, exact questions that we just finished solving. So hopefully, if we can just focus on this early part, the second part is much easier. Okay, let's go do number 2. Number 2. I'm going to move a little bit faster here. We're going to think about the first one times the last one, which makes 12, but I don't want to forget the signs. It's going to make a positive 12. Now, this is a little bit different than a negative. If two numbers multiply to make a positive, what are the signs of those two numbers?
Or negative.
Right, we have options here. Plus, plus, or minus, minus. Now, it's really not that complicated of a choice. Are you going to choose two negative numbers to make positive 7? No. So it's going to be positive, right? If you want to be really kind of next level with it, you can just look at the sign of the middle term and just say, okay, it's going to be plus, plus. But you don't have to, right? You could leave it as, let's not decide yet, right? Let's keep our options open for now. So pairs that make 12, how many different things you got? What do you got?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. What else you got?
2 and 6.
Yep, one more.
1 and 12.
Easy. Excellent job. From these pairs, we want to choose adding together or perhaps subtracting from one another to make positive 7. So what are we going to choose? Obviously, plus 3 plus 4. That is it. Okay, that's the puzzle aspect. Any questions about this portion, right? Truly, this is the only new thing in the last 20 minutes, right? Because I've taught you 2 new things in the last hour, but you guys are killing it, keeping up so far. Okay, no questions, so we're moving on. All we need to do now is split this up into 4 parts, which is really just splitting the middle one up. So write carefully, 12x squared. The 7x is going to become a plus 3 and the plus 4, but don't forget your x's. That is just kind of like the classic pitfall. And then split this up. And now let's finish the question. So 12x squared plus 3x, what can we take out from this? 3x, I agree 100%. And left over is 4x plus 1. Make sure that you are comfortable with this 1, right? We had a 3x, we lost 3x, but we need the placeholder 1. And now on the other side, we need to find 4x plus 1. It has to happen. Now I'm sure some of you are sitting at your desk and you're saying, well, this is the easiest question of all time, right? 4x plus 1. We've already got 4x plus 1. No problem. Easy peasy. Is it that easy? Is there something weird going on? What do you guys think?
There's no monomial or binomial.
That is a little tricky. I might test you on the exact way you said it. Is there no number out front? Right. So very weird. There is a placeholder 1 out front. What could we take out? Nothing, but it's not really nothing. We could take out a 1 if we had to. And the reason this 1 is important is that in the end, now that we're writing our answer, 4x plus 1, the other piece needs to be the leftovers, right? It needs to be the 3x and whatever the heck's over here. And so it needs to be the 3x and the 1. All right. And again, just to remind you guys, the whole point of what we're doing is these two things, if we foiled them, would lead us back to the original, right? We are just unfoiling these two binomials from each other. Okay, let's go down to number 5 because it's a little bit easier because we got a little bit more room. Let's do this really fast. Let's kick up the speed a little bit. First times last, we run into another tiny little issue. There's no number out front. But of course, there's really a 1 there, right? So that's just 1 times negative 8. That's easy. That's a negative 8. What types of numbers multiply to make negative? One of them's a minus. One of them's a plus. What are our different options for multiplying to make 8? 2 and 4. 1 and 8. And that's pretty much it. So time to make a choice. How are we going to multiply to make negative 8, add up to make negative 2? We're going to need to choose 2 and 4. Here is a little bit of a tricky decision, though. Which one's positive? Which one's negative? What do you think?
Positive 2, negative 4.
And why'd you choose that?
Because you take 2 out from negative 4, making it negative 2.
Right, so I mean, it's just simple addition. You've got a negative 4 and you've got a positive 2, and they add together to make negative 2. It's nothing more than just regular old addition. Now, this choice can be a little tricky for students, and if you need some sort of help or some sort of trick to help you figure out which one of these is positive, if you want to make a negative number, just make the big number negative. If you want to make a positive number, then just make the big number positive, right? So that's kind of the best trick that I have for you. Since we need to make a negative 2, just make the big number negative, and we're good from there. Okay, now again, let's move a little quicker here. X squared plus 2x minus 4x minus 8. Split it up. Take out an x. Need to find the x plus 2. These both have a 4 in common, and I'm left over with negative x minus 2. Yo.
Make it a negative 4.
Of course, right? So now that you've seen this the second time, it's probably a little bit more obvious. Okay, we took out the 4, and that was good, but now our signs are all wrong, right? We have the exact opposite of what we want. And so, if your signs are opposite of what you want, take out a negative 4, and that will turn both of these things into positive. So let me rewrite this real quick. We're going to take out a negative 4, left over with x plus 2. And now we are much happier because we have plus 2, plus 2. So we have x plus 2 as one portion of the answer, x minus 4 as the other. All right, let's do one more question. Let's do one more. Let's do number 9. Let's do number 9. Here's the reason I like number 9. Actually, I'll tell you later. I like number 9, though. So, first things first. We need to do the first times the last and figure out what that multiplies to. Positive 24. When it comes to having positive numbers after you multiply two things, what did we have multiplied together? Plus, plus, or perhaps minus, minus. How many different ways can we multiply to make 24? We already did these in this class, in this video. So we've got 1 times 24. We've got 2 times 12. We've got 3 times 8. We've got 4 times 6. And now we need to make 10 out of these possible pairs. Last time we had to do this, we chose 2 and 12, right? We chose minus 12 plus 2 or something like that. And that would certainly make 10. But this time, we cannot choose this because we have to have same signs. This will no longer work. And so we need to choose. We need to choose 4 and 6 in order to make the 10. Of course, it's going to be minus minus. And now we are ready. Split it, take out an x. Hopefully you've gotten this far. You've realized that if we take out a 6, we're going to have minus x plus 4, and then that's just not going to do it for us. And so instead of taking out a 6, we're going to need to take out a negative 6. And then all of our signs will be, I don't know what I'm doing there, minus 4. And so we get x minus 4, x minus 6. All right, we are pretty much done. This is it. I mean, this is factoring trinomials. I want to talk with you guys about 2 different things, though, just things that you might see, and then we'll be done. So let's look at a question like, it's an easy one. Let's go, we don't have much room on number 3. Let's look at a question like number 4. I know we're jumping all over the place. X squared minus 16x plus 63. So this question is not too bad, although 63 is a little bit of a weird number. Let me grab red here so it's a little bit obvious as I cut through my answer here. 1 times 63 is 63, a positive 63. So we're going to need plus, plus, or minus, minus. What numbers multiply to make 63? What is, yep, 7 and 9. There's a couple others, 1 and 63. There's one more that's pretty tricky. 21 and 3. Excellent job, right? So there's these 3 options that we have. We have plus, plus, minus, minus. Obviously, it's not much of a choice because we need to make a negative 16. So we're going to choose minus, minus, minus 7, minus 9. Now, here's the thing I want to talk to you guys about as we finish up this question, okay? When I put these numbers in here, I can put negative 7, negative 9. They've got to go in here. But when I just did that, I basically made a choice, right? If you were doing this for homework, totally could happen that you ended up with minus 9 minus 7, right? So basically these 2 numbers here, does the order matter, right? Do we have an issue? Is there a right answer or a wrong answer? Are you going to get different things? It's a pretty cool thing that ends up happening. It's something that maybe you wouldn't have guessed, but once you see it happen, it'll be a little bit like, oh, I probably should have known that. If we start out with the minus 9, I'm going to do this kind of fast. If you guys just want to sit and watch, that's fine. I'm going to take out an x. left over with x minus 9, need the x minus 9. I see I have a minus 7, and I need this to turn into a regular old x. So I'm going to have to take away the minus and the 7. I'm going to be left over with an x. 63 is 7 times 9. And I had a plus, took out a minus, so I have a minus here. So we're good. Minus, minus. And so what I'm going to get is x minus 9, x minus 7. Now, the 9 came from the parentheses. The 9 was the shared thing that they had in common. If I go back all the way, maybe I should press this so it doesn't make a noise. Here we go. If I go back all the way up here and I replace these two orders and I split it up, let me use a different color here. Now, this used to be an x minus 9 in the parentheses, but now it's an x minus 7. Okay, over here I got to take out a minus 9 and I've got an x minus 7. So now, the things that they had in common used to be a minus 9, but now the minus 7 is what they have in common. And now the leftover parts that used to be an x and a minus 7 have now been swapped with the x and the minus 9. So the order of these two things doesn't matter. The only thing that will switch is it will switch kind of what's the common and what's the leftover, but you'll still get the exact same answer. So it doesn't matter the two orders that you go through there. Now, here is the big time thing, the grand finale of what I'm going to show you today. Okay, this is something that you really want to focus. If you're starting to lose, this has been a really long day for you guys. I know for sure. We've gone through a lot of stuff, but if you're starting to nod off a bit, wake yourself up a bit, do some jumping jacks, something, stand up, do a stretch. Here we go. Maybe you have realized that a question like number 4 has a big shortcut to it. There's a huge shortcut to number 4. Has anybody realized what that is? Way back here, when we identified the two numbers that would solve our puzzle, the exact same two numbers are the two numbers that work for the answer. Okay? And we can take these two numbers, and we could have just skipped this whole thing and gone straight to the answer here where it works. Now, we need to be a little careful, okay? If I look at a question like number 2, unfortunately, I wrote right through the answer. That's a bummer, but the answers that we chose to the puzzle was 3 and 4. Down here, not quite as obvious as that, right? We've got a 4x plus 1 and 3x plus 1. That is not going to work. The shortcut doesn't really look great there, okay? This question, number 5, the pattern that we found was plus 2 minus 4. The answer, plus 2 minus 4. So here, the shortcut would have worked perfect. As soon as we solved the puzzle, we could have just said we were done. And if we look at number 9, we chose minus 4 minus 6, the answer. Minus 4 minus 6. So we have some questions where the pattern is working great, and we can just skip the whole thing. We have other questions like number 2 and even number 1. Number 1, we said minus 2 plus 12. The answer has nothing to do with the 12, right? So the shortcut would not work here, okay? There is a shortcut, and it has to do with this number out front, okay? If you have a number out front that is anything but a 1, you are forced to do the long way where you split it into 4, you split it down the middle, you do the GCF, you do the GCF. You are forced to do that if you have any number out front. So for example, Number 1, we are forced to do the long way. But number 3, if we look at this, number 3 has a 1 out front. And that is good. That is signaling to us we could technically do the shortcut on this question. So 1 times negative 10. We need a minus and a plus. We can either choose 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. Anybody got which numbers we're going to choose here? Minus 2 plus 5. And because this question qualifies for the shortcut, these two answers right here, that's it. We're done. X minus 2, x plus 5. We're chilling. And that is the end of it, right? And if you want to double check, you could FOIL this and it would work. Let's look at number 6. Could we do the shortcut on number 6? No. We're forced to do it the long way. Number 8, forced to do it the long way. Number 10, could we use the shortcut? Yes. Yes, we could. Okay, so you now have basically, you can always use the long way if you want, right? If you look at number 9, we did it the long way and we got it right, right? You always have this 100% of the time way to solve the question. You can always, always, always use the long way of grouping to solve these questions. But if you have a 1 out front, then you have the go-to to do the shortcut. Now, to finish up the lesson, I will tell you right now, I always kind of try to give you these odds here, but there's always somebody in class who's like, oh, cool, I like the shortcut, I hate the long way, I'll just miss every single long question and I'll get all the shortcut questions right, and that's just how it will go for the rest of the year. First thing I would say is that's not the smartest decision to make, but especially because as of right now, you know how to do the long way. At least you, for the most part, know how to do it this way. So all you got to do is not forget how to do it this way. And then sometimes you can use the shortcut to finish your question. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. That is how you do trinomial factoring. We've used grouping. I've also showed you guys how to do the shortcut for some of these questions. And I guess that is pretty much it. Let's see here.